Hello everyone and welcome back to the Plutonium Show. Yes, something is different today. I am unfortunately alone in this episode. Boo-hoo. I think the sun is really... Let me just back up a little bit. I'm next to a window. I think that's better. Unfortunately, we have been traveling just for this week and we just couldn't take any podcast gear with us. And so here I am, just little lonely old me. But fear not, Zach will be back next week and everything will be as it should be. All right, so we actually have a lot to get to today. Yes, I know I say that every episode, but it's true for every episode. So let's get straight into it. Breaking news. The world's biggest bully, allegedly, is complaining about being the world's most bullied person. What a shocker, right? I know, none of us saw that coming. I mean, broken record much. It's not the first time we've heard about this. It's certainly not the last time we're going to hear about it. But it's particularly disgusting this time, because this time she's not just complaining about being the world's most bullied person, but is exploiting children yet again. Other people's children, very young girls. They've been described by Vanity Fair as tweens. So these are pre-teens who are already vulnerable enough. I mean, the whole point of this discussion that she had with them, apparently, was to talk about the harms of social media and how you need to switch off and live your life off screen. I mean, the irony, I'm sure, is not lost on you, because this woman arrived there with cameras in tow, putting these girls on social media. So if you go to Archewell's actual website, she's got this little video and, of course, this big photo that greets you, championing young girls. And she's got these young women on the internet, on social media, for the world to see. And for what? Is it for their benefit? Of course not. They're just props, yet again, for Meghan Markle to come across as a saint. She visited on the 2nd of October in honor of International Day of the Girl, along with Pivotal Ventures and the Oprah Winfrey, excuse me, Charitable Foundation, announced their contributions to support a partnership between Girls Inc. and #HalfTheStory. Now, Girls Inc. is a problematic organization in itself, which we will be getting into that for this episode. But #HalfTheStory, I quickly looked it up. It was launched in 2015. And it's basically on a mission to empower the next generation's relationship to technology with young people at the core. That's about all I can say about this organization. I really didn't have the time to squeeze any information about it into the episode. So the date I mentioned, the 2nd of October, we haven't heard about this until the 11th of October, and there is a very good reason for that. You may or may not be aware that Princess Catherine has been slowly but surely making public appearances, and very recently she made one such appearance with her husband Prince William when they visited the bereaved families of 3 young girls who were tragically murdered at a Taylor Swift themed dance event in Southport. I'm sure you all remember the news from a few months ago. And so right on cue, because she never operates out of a different playbook. You know, Meghan Markle is just set in her ways. If you watched my last video, The Curse of Being a Narcissist, they never learn. They never update their programming because they think it's perfect. There's nothing to update. Right on cue, she releases this announcement complete with photos and a video to compete with Princess Catherine and Prince William. I mean, at this point, it's not comical, really. It's because it's really annoying and also concerning. It's scary, her obsession with these two, and how it hasn't dissipated in a number of years. I have personal experience with being on the receiving end of this stalking, obsessive behavior that's been going on for a number of years. And it's really no laughing matter, and it's certainly not petty. But they just have to live with it, William and Catherine, until... I don't know, really, until when. I don't know what's going to bring this to an end, because in our situation, a court case and the police couldn't even bring it to the end. You know, these people have serious issues that go beyond law enforcement, unfortunately. She's done something else before, which is completely flip the narrative, which is something else these types of people are known for doing. So in our situation, we were stalked and harassed, and other horrific things particularly happened to my partner, Zach. And that was all flipped around. Well, not all of it. The more serious allegations, they knew they couldn't get away with flipping around. But the stalking and the harassment, the perpetrator said we were the ones doing it. It's classic DARVO, which stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse, Victim, Offender. So they reverse the roles. And that's exactly, in my opinion, based on the information available to us out there from The Hollywood Reporter and, of course, Valentine Lowe, Tom Bauer, all the bullying allegations, that is exactly what Meghan Markle appears to be doing. Because when she went to see these girls, it is my opinion that she didn't go to see them for their own benefit. And I'm sure you all will share that opinion with me. If you don't believe me, the Vanity Fair article itself exposes Meghan's agenda when she allegedly told the girls, who were tweens and the focus should have been on them and their experiences, she told them that she is one of the most bullied people in the world. The audacity of this woman. And to children. It's not like she's sitting there at South by Southwest with a group of adults, yapping about how YouTube needs to be shut down. No, these are children who are potentially going through very real things on social media, things that they don't deserve. Bullying. No one's saying it doesn't exist on social media. Of course it does. Content creators like myself are on the receiving end of it every day. And I'm not saying that Meghan doesn't receive bad comments. For those out there who are actually bullying Meghan in the sense that they're calling her names and making fun of her, etc., that is not acceptable. But there is a world of difference between being bullied, legitimately bullied, in the way Princess Catherine was when she was not only recovering from major abdominal surgery, but was a cancer patient. And people were making fake imagery of her being abused by her own loving husband, who dropped everything when he found out about her diagnosis. Catherine, who played around with Photoshop, and the entire world embarked on this witch hunt, attacking her. How dare you fumble around with Photoshop like the rest of us do, including Meghan Markle? How dare you, while you're recovering from cancer with 3 small children? They forced her to come out with an explanation. Do you remember that? It was disgusting behavior, and that is what bullying is. And Meghan Markle has never been on the receiving end of that behavior. What Meghan Markle has been experiencing for the last few years, especially since Megxit, is criticism based on her behavior. Calling out toxic, abusive, evil behavior is not bullying. And we can say that until we are all blue in the face. She will never get it through her head. Because it all comes back to my video last week. Not last week, it was this week. No, it was last week. In her mind, she's done nothing wrong. She's perfect, and it's the entire world's fault that anything negative or bad is happening to her. You really just can't make this up. And this is just, it's so funny that this news came out of her visiting the girls, because it was right off the back of the video I uploaded. She never learns. She's in this cycle of self-destruction, the curse of the narcissist. She's done this before, and she's seen it blow up in her face. She's tried the DARVO tactics before, and they never work, and she's still trying it, and I promise you, for as long as she lives, she always will. Some people have an interesting theory that I tend to agree with, because Meghan just has this tendency to do this, which is SEO, search engine optimization. Some people theorize that she wore that red revenge dress, which we'll get to that talking point if we have time at the end of the episode, to drown out the 2021 results and imagery of her wearing that dress in a different, with the whole bustle thing. And she was quite heavier because it was pre-weight loss, but that's what people theorize. And they have the same theory when it comes to this visit and purposely using the term bullied so that headlines will be written about it on the internet, so that when people search Meghan Markle bully, she thinks that the Hollywood Reporter and all the other articles reporting on her alleged bullying will be drowned out by this latest declaration of hers, being that she's the most bullied person in the world. I think that's a very sound theory, and I tend to agree with it. So let me know if you do as well. One more thing I'd like to say before we move on to Girls Inc. and their shady past. If you look at the blurb put out by Archewell Foundation about this visit, it goes on and on about uplifting girls around the world and protecting their safety and wellness in online spaces. Now, we cannot talk about protecting safety and wellness on online spaces without bringing up the Sussex Squad. I know it's almost like a broken record at this point, but Meghan Markle is a broken record. Her tactics are a broken record. And so our arguments and rebuttals are also going to sound repetitive, like a broken record. Meghan Markle is very much aware, along with Prince Harry, of the Sussex Squad's existence. They have thanked them for their fundraising efforts. They have taken photos with them at events. And they are very much aware of the bullying and harassment and terrorism that they engage in online with people who are openly critical of Meghan and Harry, particularly Meghan, of course, including myself. Of course, I've had firsthand experiences with their tactics. And so this is the problem when the likes of Meghan and Harry attach themselves to these otherwise valid causes. Everything they do, everything they attach themselves to, they do the exact opposite of. It's not just that these causes are flavor of the month and they're, bandwagon hopping. It goes beyond that. They are deliberately picking causes that battle against issues that they have personally been accused of. Whether it's bullying, whether it's, remember the earliest ones were climate change, when they were still working royals and Harry's lecturing us all about caring about the environment and taking less holidays. Meanwhile, he and his family fly on private jets like it's a car and they're going down to the grocery store. And his response was, yeah, well, we're special. My family needs security. This is what they do. Whatever they are accused of doing, they then champion a cause against it. But what then happens is they diminish the validity of that message, of that cause. Because especially now, years later, people are waking up to them. It's no longer just a minority of us like it used to be even just a couple of years ago, before the Netflix series. That Netflix series, ironically, really turned the tide against them. Because when you see bullies championing anti-bullying efforts, and when you see people who use private jets like we use cars, championing climate change or protecting the climate efforts, and when you see people who allegedly bully children. I'm talking here specifically about Princess Charlotte when she was 3 years old and made her cry, championing efforts against bullying children, trying to protect children from bullying. The message is lost. It no longer makes sense. And when people are aware of that, which they are becoming aware of that, the whole cause is tarnished. We always say Meghan and Harry have the reverse Midas touch. Everything they touch turns to ashes, metaphorically. And it's unfortunate that certain organizations are still willing and happy to partner with them. But there is a reason for that some of the time. Maybe not all of the time, but some of the time. And this time happens to be one of those times. So, getting into the Girl Inc. allegations. Now, what is Girls Inc.? If you hop onto their website, you'll see that, first of all, you'll be met with photos of women of color, young girls of color. That is not an accident. They say we are guided by the vision of powerful girls in an equitable society. And their mission is to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. And their vision is to have powerful girls in an equitable society. Now, I see a lot of buzzwords here that Meghan Markle loves to use. So already their partnership is making sense. I can't take credit for this research. This has been compiled by some incredible people in the community who do not wish to be named, so I will respect that. But it turns out that this partnership between Meghan and Girls Inc. makes a lot of sense because the organization has been involved in some serious issues itself. Back in 2020, a petition was posted online which alleged repeated incidents of racial bias and retaliation for speaking out at Girls Inc. of Greater Lowell. And so an investigation was conducted by an independent Lowell law firm, which led to the resignation of the group's executive director and the firing of its business manager. Now, Greater Lowell, if I'm even saying that correctly, is not the branch that Meghan Markle visited. I understand that, but they all fall under the same organization, and so it's relevant. But that wasn't the end of it. Unfortunately, only a year later, in 2021, another branch of Girls Inc. was sued for discrimination by a former employee. So this happened when an employee spoke up in meetings and raised equity concerns. Now, it's funny because that was their vision, right? Girls, equity in society. This employee, who was a woman of color, raised equity concerns in her role as business manager for Girls Inc. And she claimed she was ignored, mocked, and given the silent treatment by the administration. And so she received permission from the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination on the 5th of October of 2021 to sue, which means they reviewed her complaints, saw that they had merit, and gave her the go-ahead. Now, this case was settled outside of court. And that's not to say that when people settle, that always means that they were guilty or liable of what they were being accused of. But I'm just putting it out there. You can arrive at your own conclusions as to why this was the case. Is it starting to make sense here why they put girls of color on their homepage and why they wanted to kind of shove down that whole equity message down your throat? And also, more importantly, why they are openly and happily collaborating with the likes of Oprah Winfrey and Meghan Markle. I mean, of course they want their money. I know that. That one's obvious. But, you know, birds of a feather. So yes, yet again, Meghan Markle has some shady connections. And as we all know, this isn't the first time. If you'll remember, they bought their Montecito mansion from a Russian oligarch who had some incredibly serious allegations against him, including sex crimes. There was the whole fugitive Nigerian airline owner, where I understand it's not their fault necessarily that he's a fugitive and they had nothing to do with it, but they don't research, they don't care. You know, it's not a coincidence that these people are kind of gravitating towards each other. And then, of course, there was the Nigerian king, Akanbe, who is a felon, who's banned from the US for a slew of incredibly serious crimes. So, yet again, either Archewell and Meghan don't care who they affiliate with, or they don't do their research. I'm inclined to think that, given the number of times that this has been happening, time and time again, they're associating with very shady people and organizations. I'm starting to think it's the former. They don't care. And if anything, this just goes to prove that Meghan doesn't give two hoots about racism and misogyny, discrimination in general, because if she did, then she wouldn't affiliate herself with Girls Inc. And the same can go for Oprah, of course. I'm not too well versed about Oprah. I don't know if she harps on about anti-bullying, but I know she's big on the anti-racism, actually. So yeah, Oprah, way to show people what you actually care about and where your loyalties lie. You know, all you care about is self-promotion and money. They're cut from the same cloth, all of these people. And I hope people are waking up to this, because when Meghan Markle sits there and pretends to talk about racism and equity and equality and misogyny, then I hope channels like this are helping and exposing what her true agenda is. It has never been to champion women's rights, whom she bullies, allegedly. It has never been to fight for equity and to fight against racism and discrimination. It's always been all about her. That's her agenda. And hopefully the world can see it. All right, now finally, a little bit of a lighter topic to end this podcast on a high note, because we couldn't do that last week, and I insisted, I am determined to do it this time. Get a load of this article. You want a good laugh, right? I think we all are in need of a good laugh. People always say, oh, why don't you cover more serious topics? I mean, first of all, we do. I think if you spend more than 2 seconds on this channel, you'll see we do cover a lot of serious topics. But second of all, who wants that kind of life where everything is just doom and gloom, right? We need some levity. And Daily Mail is bringing that to us. So, why Hollywood insiders say Meghan wore this revenge dress to hit back at US critics. Now, I'm not going to read through the article. It's basically talking about how her red dress is a revenge dress, a la Princess Diana, when she wore that banging black dress with the pearl choker and that amazing athletic body that she clearly worked incredibly hard for. And of course, let's not forget, she did it it was literally a revenge dress because the rumors of the Camilla and Charles affair were confirmed. So it was a big FU to Charles. So on what basis is this a revenge dress? That's my first question. What is Meghan avenging? You know, it doesn't make any sense, because the article was basically a rebuttal of the rumors of her and Harry splitting, which I'm not going to get into. I don't like delving into that speculation, but that's what the article says. So where's the revenge dress element? If he's not leaving her, or if they're not separated, why does she feel the need to show him what he's missing? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense, but nothing ever does with Meghan. Basically, what I wanted to focus on was this whole feminist thing, right, that she's always harping on about. Remember how she complained about not being objectified, or rather being objectified on Deal or No Deal, and it was a whole thing on her Flopcast, you know, RIP archetypes. And she talked about how she wasn't comfortable in that role. It's so funny because people have been putting up side by sides of that iconic, I suppose, briefcase photo shoot that she had in a little red skimpy dress, and of course this revenge dress. And there really isn't, you know, apart from the passage of time and a couple of missing elements, there really isn't that much difference between the two images. And so it begs the question of, did you feel objectified? Never mind that she was in her mid to late 20s when she signed the dotted line and knew exactly what she was getting herself into. You know, Meghan loves pretending to be the naive ingenue who didn't know. I didn't know we had tabloids in the US. I didn't know that Deal or No Deal expected me to stand there and be pretty. I thought they were going to be asking me to recite dissertations on how black holes are made. So, yeah, there's that aspect of, but you've always dressed that way, Meghan. This red dress is nothing special. If you look at all her photos pre-Harry on the red carpet, if you look at her photos since Harry, you know, in Nigeria, in Colombia, this is always how she dressed up. So to me, she yet again outed her agenda in this article because, of course, she's the source of all of this nonsense. The Diana comparison, the Diana obsession. She just wanted people to compare her to Diana's revenge dress moment, when it doesn't make sense, because Diana was going through a very public divorce after her husband was outed for having an affair. What are you going through that needs a revenge dress moment? Make it make sense. It will never make sense. Now, moving on to the final point. There's always a lot of talk about Meghan being a young mom, and I'm very sensitive about ageism. I am so anti-ageism. I've spoken out against ageism on this channel before. I'm quite a young woman, and some of the comments I hear about approaching 30s and beyond, it's like I'm gonna die. You know, the way people talk about it, I mean, obviously it's not what I believe, but it's so ridiculous to think that we women have, you know, between 18 and 29 to be relevant and beautiful and all the other things that you apparently lose as soon as you turn 30. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that is not the angle I'm taking. But I think we can all agree that Meghan Markle at 43 is not a young mother. And in fact, I would go as far as to say that when she had her first child, how old was she? 38. She's not a young mother. When my mother was in her mid-40s, my brother was already at university and I was approaching the end of high school. So yet again, she's forcing down this false narrative, which is so antithetical to the whole feminism aspect yet again. Because isn't feminism all about fighting against these patriarchal tropes of, women are only relevant and sexy and beautiful if they're young? And yet here we have this woman who is in her mid-40s really trying to associate herself with youth rather than accept the beautiful process of getting older. And it's beautiful because you're still alive. I'm sure Princess Catherine has a very different opinion of life, when you come so close to losing it. I'm sure any preoccupations with youth and all the pettiness that Meghan Markle is drowning in because she's never faced a real hardship in her life, all of that is erased. All of that is laughable to people who have come face to face with death at such a young age, such as Catherine, and I'm sure many people, even just in my audience, have been through it. So, talk about being a feminist. Yet again, all talk, zero substance. And with that, I am going to end this episode. Oh, I will say that the whole will they, won't they go to England for the Christmas holidays is, I think, finally coming to an end because of security concerns. They're not going to go. We didn't see that coming, did we? Apparently they weren't invited by Sandringham or by the royal family, which is completely understandable. Why on earth would you invite them? But they've turned down the Spencer family invitation, allegedly, because of security concerns, yet again. Broken record, what did I tell you? So that's all we have time for today. I am sitting next to a window in the hotel room, and it is incredibly difficult to film, considering all the traffic, so I really hope that hasn't come across in the episode. If it did, I do apologize. You all know this is a very temporary setup, and we will be back in our usual setup next week. So until then, take care, everyone. I will likely see you in another video at the end of the week. And yeah, see you next time.